Right. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mister of Soul and Re Physical Therapy. I am going to wait a few more seconds to let people come into the room. Today we have on Latasha Sago. I was about to say doctor, but she's a lawyer, not a doctor. And she's going to be on talking about estate planning. So just give you guys some more time to get on and we will get started. Thank you for joining us, those who've already joined. Right. So about 15 more seconds and I will start with her bio. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, Dr. Mister of Soul and Reap Physical Therapy here in Shreveport, Louisiana. So we're going to continue week 3 of our virtual Black History event where we're educating the youth and young adults on different careers. So today we have on Latasha Sago. She is one of Mississippi's few estate planning attorneys. She is the owner and lead attorney of Sago Law Firm, which is located in South Haven, Mississippi, where she mainly practices estate planning, trust, and business law. Latasha has been practicing law for almost 12 years, and for almost 10 of those, she served as a labor relations counsel for the airline pilots of FedEx. In addition to practicing law, Latasha has started several other businesses to include a woodworking business, a leadership and financial consulting firm, real estate investing, and recently started a trucking company with her husband. Latasha spends most of her free time with her husband and 3 girls, and she enjoys serving others in her community. So let's go ahead and bring up Tasha. Here we go. Hello.
Hi, how are you? I am awesome. How are you today?
Doing good. Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge, extensive knowledge on law and entrepreneurship, because you are doing a lot. So we'll just go through the questions, and anything that you want to add, just say it, okay? Because again, this is geared more towards the youth and just educating them on different career paths and how to get involved. So go ahead and tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What high school and college did you attend?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. This is, an awesome opportunity to share. But I'm from where you're from, Carmichael, Mississippi. We're from the same small hometown of Little Carmichael, Mississippi. Graduating class of 25. Yeah, I thought that was a big number until I went to college and people started laughing at me. My husband still laughs at me to this day that we had 25 people in our graduating class. So graduated from Montgomery County High School in Carmichael, Mississippi. Then went on to start my college career at Mississippi State University. And I say start because I led a great path of different directions in college and majored in several different things. I started out as a freshman, majoring in mechanical engineering at Mississippi State University. I did probably a year in mechanical engineering, and I did a co-op before I realized that I think I wanted to do something different. So I transferred to nursing school at Holmes Community College for a semester or 2. Then I transferred back to Mississippi State University and majored in chemistry so that I can go to med school. Decided I wanted to do chemical engineering, so I majored in chemical engineering at Mississippi State University. Then I said I wanted a different, viewpoint. I went to LSU. I went to Louisiana State University, transferred there, and majored in petroleum engineering, so that I could go for, without paying out-of-state fees. I'll tell you guys about that later. I found a great program. And I was there for a year prior to returning back to Mississippi State University. And after having a nice little mountain of having my first child, I ended up transferring to Mississippi University for Women, majored in paralegal studies, and graduated from Mississippi University for Women in a year with my paralegal studies degree. It was there that I had a professor who encouraged me to not stop at paralegal studies, but to continue on to law school. He felt like I'd be a great lawyer. I thought he was crazy because I said I was trying to get out of school. I wasn't interested in pursuing anything further. But he dared me to take the LSAT, which is the entrance exam for law school. I did that, and I scored high enough to get into 3 law schools, and I ended up going to University of Mississippi, Ole Miss for short, for law school, and I graduated law school in May of 2008.
Gotcha. And you guys, so Tasha and I were classmates, and she is our class valedictorian. So brilliant mind. Like, I always admired. No, seriously, I've always admired, because valedictorian, I was salutatorian, but I had to study, y'all. Like, I had to work. Like, I'm up to like midnight. Like, I don't want to do this, but I knew I had to do it, right? But Tasha, she was that sharp child that would sleep in class, wake up, make 100, and go back to sleep. Just brilliant. I've always admired your mind. Like, girl, you don't know how gifted you are. So, all right. So, are you a member of any special organizations that you want to talk about? Besides being a member of the Mississippi Bar Association, I don't have much time for anything else outside of that. But I do participate at my church, at Brown Missionary Baptist Church in South Haven, Mississippi, on several ministries. We have a life prep ministry that does college tours that's geared towards kind of what you're trying to do here, help young people at a time where you can help them while they're in high school, figure out where they want to go, what going to college means. What does it look like? That it costs money. Sometimes you don't want to waste money, and different things like that. So I participate in that. Me and my family are on the Family Partners Council at Labana Children's Hospital here in Memphis, Tennessee. And there we advocate for children's health, and we just, help hospitals understand family and partner, family-centered care. So when you have a patient, that's my oldest daughter is a Labana patient. So being able for doctors to work with parents and providing the best care for children, I think is the most important thing. So right, gotcha. So you are a estate planning attorney. So what exactly do you do?
Well, estate planning is it's just essentially I work with people to protect their assets and everything that they work so hard for to leave to their children and to other loved ones. So when you hear someone talk about a will, that's kind of what I do. I prepare wills. I prepare also something called trust, which is a different just vehicle used and designed to protect people's assets, their homes, different things like that. Also, and just encouraging families to talk and have that conversation about how you want your things left when you go. And for like me and you, we're in a stage where we have young children. Have we had the conversation about who's going to take care of our children if something were to happen to us while they're still minors? Who will their guardians be? Do the guardians know that they're going to be guardians? And have you left enough assets for those guardians to continue to take care of your children how you've been taking care of your children? I know it's kind of a taboo conversation when you start talking about death. A lot of people don't want to have that conversation, but it's so important to go ahead and talk about it now and talk about your wishes, because after you're gone, right? And people, your family, your spouse, your parents, your siblings can all speculate about what you wanted. And they're going to all have their own opinion. And sometimes it matches and most of the time it doesn't. And so if you're making, it's better for you to have clear instructions and so that your wishes are followed through. And also it gives your family an opportunity to grieve without all the contention. It gives your family the ability to stay together and to stay, as one whole, because even though your siblings or your parents may not like something that you left in your will or how you left something, but if they know it was your wish, they're going to honor that. And then everybody can still stay as a unit, stay as a whole, and they can all grieve together without trying to figure out what you would have done or what you would have wanted. So I encourage people, even when it's hard, and even if and a lot of people, I get this in Mississippi, I don't have much to leave. All I have is a house.
Yeah.
Well, your house is valuable, right?
Yeah.
You know, your house is something, and you need to be clear on how you want that house to be left, how you want, you know, how you want that house to be taken care of or handled, or to be paid off. You need to be clear to be, you know, to consider your loved ones that you're leaving behind, you know, just to
Gotcha.
consider them in that process.
Right. Because a lot of people do think, well, I don't have a lot. Well, it's still, like you said, it's still something. And you
Right.
don't want, and you'd be amazed what people fight over. Now, you
Right.
may look at it and be like, oh, it's just that, but they're looking at it like, but I want that. So
Right.
you got,
And grief does several
oh,
things to a lot of
yeah.
people, right? So
Yeah.
and typically I tell people this: when you've lost something, especially something that you value, you tend to
Uh-huh.
want to hold on to anything else, right? So
Gotcha.
the reaction that some people will get that says, I want mama's necklace, you know, that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
worth anything, but she
Right.
wore it every day. I want that
Mm-hmm.
necklace. And it's not that they really want the necklace, it's that they want to hold on to something because they lost mom and they weren't able to hold
Exactly.
on to her. So
Exactly.
you need to be clear, you know, about how you want to leave things. And I say this too, it's us that
Mm-hmm.
have you know, that have more to lose. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
millionaires and the billionaires. Billionaires and
Mm.
millionaires can stand to lose $10,000 or $20,000 after their passing to
Right.
some mishap or some creditor or something being mishandled. They can stand to
Okay.
lose that. Well, if you all you have is a house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or if you have a
Mm-hmm.
small estate, you can't, you know, afford to lose anything. You have to
Right.
make sure that you keep up with all of your assets. So it's us in this, you know, lower and middle class that
Mm-hmm.
have more to lose and need to, you know, really make sure that our stuff is in order before we pass
Gotcha.
away.
Gotcha. Okay, so again, you guys, we have Tasha. She's talking about estate planning, and please share to let others know that we have Tasha Sago on today. And so you started out with FedEx, working, being an attorney for the pilots.
Right.
So how
Let
did
me
you
let
say
me
it
just
again?
let me clarify that. I have to always
Okay.
clarify this, especially on my resume. I
Okay.
did not work for FedEx. I
Ah.
worked
Okay. Okay.
on the opposite side of FedEx.
Ah. Okay.
Um, yes. So I worked for Airline Pilots Association, which is the labor union for the FedEx pilots.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
so I worked with FedEx attorneys all the time.
Okay.
And, you know, because we negotiated, my part of my job was to negotiate the terms of their employment contract
Gotcha.
and any issues that came up with the contract, whether there's a scheduling issue, a pay issue, or, you know, contract enforcement is where I started in enforcing the contract with
Okay.
them. And so I have to always clarify that I
Yeah.
worked for Airline Pilots Association.
All right.
It's I think at that time it was the world's largest labor union,
Oh wow. Okay.
and so the nation's largest labor union. And I don't know if that's still the statistic, but um, they are stationed out of Herndon, Virginia. That was our corporate office, and they have
Okay.
field offices all over the country. My office was in Memphis, Tennessee, and we represented the FedEx pilots. For instance, the
Gotcha.
Atlanta office is headquartered where the Delta headquarters are. So they
Gotcha.
did the Delta pilot contract. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So Alaska, you know, our Alaska office did Alaskan
Right.
airline pilots. So I
Gotcha.
didn't work
Gotcha.
for FedEx. I just represented my office represented the FedEx pilots in that
Gotcha.
contract.
Okay. And so what the transition from that into estate planning. So what made you go that route?
I just felt after 10 years, I loved my job at Airline Pilots Association. It was something that I never thought existed. So
Hmm.
it was just a different world. And just to give you an example, I had never flown on an airplane prior to being hired at Airline Pilots Association. So I
Wow.
literally had to learn so much, not only learn about the labor unions, big labor unions still exist,
Hmm.
and that, you know, I've grown to love and see why they are a benefit, especially in the South. Okay, because we're in the South. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
unions aren't a big thing unless you hear about a nurses union or a teachers union, and
Right.
you know, I didn't know have that much information about them. So
Okay.
I had to educate myself on unions first of all, and then just learning more about pilots
Okay.
and what they do, what their everyday life looks like, because I had to kind of, get ingrained in that, because what we were negotiating for terms, we were negotiating, they're spending a lot of time away from their family, and the value of that. So I had to learn a lot about that. Um, and so I loved what I did for 10 years. It was very interesting. It was a very eye-opening experience. I flew a lot. I flew a lot.
Right.
I learned a lot about, other areas of the world, because there's a Hong Kong base. There is, we opened up a base in Germany. So
Wow.
got to learn a lot through that job. But over the course of time, kind of just had a more of a leaning towards wanting to help my community build and keep wealth. And that started with just kind of working at my church again through ministry. Me and my husband served on the couples ministry for some time, and just doing several things at my church, and about leaving legacies, having a desire to help people leave legacies. And of course, our church was burying people left and right who didn't have life insurance in place. Simple enough money to bury them. And so we were providing funerals at no cost, and also seeing families go through the agony of trying to figure out what their loved one would have wanted when it comes to minor children that may be left behind and different things like that. So it just kind of had I just had a change of heart of what I was doing, what my purpose was, how I could add to the community. And I started my practice actually before I left Airline Pilots Association as kind of like a side deal, just doing stuff on the side. And then I decided to go more full time. And I actually first started full time at my church. I became the director of organizational development and stewardship development at my church as a way to help members at the church leave a legacy. So we did I ran a church-wide stewardship campaign of Financial Peace University. And this was a huge undertaking. But we did it. We put so many people through that program. And I think we were able to pay off maybe $250,000 total with all the people that went through the program. And it was an awesome opportunity to help people on that scale. But and just working together, me and my pastor, we both were kind of like, well, this scale is limited in what we can do, because I'm an attorney, I have certain things and laws I have to abide by, and the church is a totally different entity. So I separated in October of 2019 and went completely and started my own practice. And and I just partnered with the church still to do estate plans and to help people at the church.
Good deal. Okay. So as far as like mentors and coaches, which I try to encourage everyone, if you're going to go, it doesn't even have to be business related. Anything, whether it's picking a college, you need someone to lead on and be a listening ear, and have already done that or in the process of doing that. So do you have any mentors or coaches that helped you along the way that you just say, yeah, like? Wow.
I had several. But as Tanya mentioned, and she was an awesome student too. I know she touted, her guest. Thank you. But Tanya was great in school. She was brilliant also. And so I say, when I was kind of a difficult teenager, I didn't get into a lot of trouble, but I didn't like to listen, because I thought I knew it all. I did. Things came easy to me. And so I thought I knew it all. So I had a lot of people that just kind of put nuggets in my ear, every now and then, just kind of gave me a word that stuck with me. Ms. Vance saying, our algebra teacher in high school, telling me that, college would be hard for me because I never had to learn how to study. And I loved Ms. Vance. Ms. Vance was the most awesomest, math teacher you could have ever had. She was. And so, but that one word helped me when I got to college and got slapped in my face, because calculus was not easy. I couldn't sleep in a calculus class and make an A. And so I remembered what she said. So in a sense, it made me feel like it was expected. You know how something happens
Mm-hmm.
to you and it's not, it catches you by surprise, like this shouldn't be happening. When it
Okay.
happened, when I failed calculus the first time because I tried to do, I was like, okay, well, she told me this would happen, so maybe I just need to start studying. And so it was this kind of encouragement where I felt like I still can move forward. If I do the right things, I still can be successful. So
Right.
that's a different type of mentorship. But I just said that because sometimes we don't have time to give 24 hours or a month or a year to a
Right.
student.
Right.
But
So,
we can give them a word that plants a seed that is watered later.
absolutely.
So don't take that for
Absolutely.
granted. And then when I got in college, of course, my paralegal studies program, my professor, Dr. Johnson, who encouraged me. I mean, literally, he was on me about going to law school. I was not going to go to law school. My mom had always said since I was at a very young age, I would go to law school. I was going to be an attorney.
Wow.
And I think I think that's so interesting because
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
would she know that? Because I had
Yeah.
no desire of being an attorney, no desire whatsoever. I've always been kind of artsy.
Okay.
I've always like to work with my hands, craft, building stuff. So building furniture is something that was expected of me, but going to law school, it's very interesting. But I asked her like, a while ago, like, how
Yeah.
did you know I was going to be an attorney? And she said, because you were always an overanalyzer and you question
Mm.
everything, so
Mm.
so it
Wow.
was kind of that. But so she spoke that over me, even when
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know she was speaking it over me. She
Mm-hmm.
said I was going to be an attorney. But Dr. Johnson was really the one that kind of stayed on me and said, you can do this. And I said, Dr. Johnson, I have a child, I have a baby. I'm trying to get
Right.
out of college. I don't have time to go to law school. Like law school, it was well above my what I was comfortable with. I'll say that because I
Mm-hmm.
did realize now in this, as I've gotten older, that sometimes we'll do things from an imposter syndrome type area
Yeah.
where it's like, no, that's not that. I couldn't do that. That's not
Right.
possible. Right.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's for the other people. That's not for me. I come from small
Mm-hmm.
town, Michael, Mississippi.
Right.
I just had a child. That's well above my pay grade. I'm not going to be able to do law school. And so literally it was coming from that place. And he was like, yeah, you can do it. And I said, I don't have money to pay for the practice courses. People were paying $5,000 for these courses to practice for
Wow.
the LSAT. And I said, I don't have that kind of money. And he's like, well, just go to grocery store and pay $1 for a logic puzzle, because that's all the LSAT is. It's a logic
Okay.
exam. And
Okay.
it's just to test it and see how logical you are. And so he told me to go to the grocery store and buy a logic puzzle and do all the puzzles in a logic puzzle. And I paid $1 for the book. I did all the logic puzzles and I registered to take the next test, which was in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And all of my classmates who were in paralegal studies, most of them were doing paralegal studies as just the next, just the first step to go to law school. None of them were going to end like I was. I was like, I'm done after this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna be happy to get my bachelor's degree. And so they had been studying for all semester, like for 5 months. And I studied for probably a week and took the exam.
Brilliant.
And no, I what you call brilliance, I call God. It's those
his
things,
gift to you. That's right. That's right.
It's those things that he wants. Sometimes he just wants us to know, like, you have to say, that was me. Like, I knew it was him.
Yeah.
I knew it was him.
Yeah.
If I had studied for 5 months and passed the LSAT and got into law school, I would have been like, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But when I scored high enough, what I did, and I said, this is God. Like, I have to go to law school at this point. He wants me to go to law school for some reason. And so yeah, that's what I call it. When you call brilliant, I call that's the Lord. And
I just look at it like this. He gave you that mind, right?
Right.
So it's his gift to you. But no, yeah, always praise God. Always. Everybody knows that. So yeah.
I don't even know. What was the question? So I get off track sometimes.
It's fine. So no, I think you answered it. So that was all like mentors. Like, was that all your mentors and coaches, or? Because it's crazy. Because I had asked you guys before she came on if she knew Judge Carlos Moore. She actually said she worked with him Boy, yeah.
I did, and Carlos was a great inspiration in starting. When I first graduated from law school and we moved to South Haven, Mississippi, as I was waiting to pass the bar, because for those of you who don't know, even after you finish law school, you cannot practice law officially until you pass what's called the bar exam.
Right.
And I was studying for the bar exam and waiting to try to pass the bar, even though we had life stuff going on. But I needed a job in the meantime, and so I did work for Judge Moore for a short period of time in his office as a law clerk. So watching him practice, that was kind of my first experience of watching attorney practice law and what that meant. And he was doing personal injury and workers' comp at the time. So I kind of, he mentored me in a way where I knew I didn't want to do personal injury and workers' comp. But that was, kind of still, like I said, still pouring into me, gave me an opportunity to work in a legal office and to see what the day in the life of an attorney looks like. So yeah, it was a great experience with Judge Moore.
And it'd be amazing these like for example, medical field, like PTs. It's a small field. Like you think, well, I'm here, but everybody knows everyone in these circles. That's what I meant to say, circles. So just be mindful of that when you go to law school. Like you're gonna see those people again at some point. Like it's a small community of people in these different fields. So be mindful of what you do and how you treat people as you're networking and making your way through life, even in college. Which is something I had to learn. So because life, it comes back full circle. So. So you go to law school, and so as a lawyer, do you think there is a certain personality type that people should have to be in your field of law?
I don't think so. I think the legal field is one of those fields. It's one of those degrees that it's so flexible. It just kind of gives you a leg up on, I guess, any industry, understanding that you're a hard worker. If you made it through law school, that means if you set your mind to something, that you can get it done. And that you're logical and that you're reasonable and that you can see both sides of a coin, kind of, that's kind of what how I equate law school. It's just a challenge of, how tough are you? Because the law school kind of experience is, even though everybody in the class is going to know the answers to the exam, and you only have one exam at the end of the semester, everybody's going to know the answers. So it's you're competing with your classmates in that who's going to get the most points or brownie points on that answer to be able to score high enough. So you're ranked, right? So I believe let's say everybody makes an A, but the lowest A has to be an F, right? So only the top 20% is going to get the A, and then the middle, next 20% is going to get a B or something like that. And then if you're in the bottom 10%, you're going to get an F, even if you knew the correct answers, even if you, answered the question properly, because the grades are scaled. Now that's been my experience at Ole Miss. I know it's probably have lots of viewers that are, go to other law schools. I don't know what your situation is, but in my class, I know for sure we were all scaled, and it was weighted based on what everybody else in the class did. So you have to be able to kind of handle that, I would say, but because they put you through that so that you can kind of stay on top of your game as you compete out here in the world. But I would say a law degree is the most flexible degree of all the professional degrees. You don't have to practice law to with a law degree, but you can still be in like an executive position or a corporate executive position. Just because you have a law degree, it helps you become elevated to the next level. So it's kind of worth it.
Good deal. So give me tell them some of the benefits of being in your career that you're like, I love being in law because of this.
I love being in law because I think it does help me analyze things and be able to see issues from both sides. It gives me an unbiased an unbiased swing. Although I can be biased sometimes,
Okay.
I'm able to take a step back and see the other person's argument without being adversarial. Okay, so I'll
Okay.
give you a great example. At Airline Pilots Association, and the reason why people always say I work for FedEx is because I worked and talked to FedEx attorneys all the time. We
Okay.
were on opposite sides of the table when it came to any type of case or arbitration and dealing
Gotcha.
with pilot issues, because they represented FedEx and I represented the pilots. And
Right.
sometimes those things didn't add up. But at the end of the day, we both have jobs to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would consider them friends. I could go to lunch with them. I could still hang out with them. We were not enemies.
Gotcha.
And I think a
Gotcha.
lot of in private practice, I've heard the same thing from other attorneys who do trial, who do go to trial, who are trial
Right.
lawyers. You may be a prosecutor and you may have a defense attorney that you go up against all the time. At the end of the day, after your job is done, you still can be cordial. And so I
Yeah.
think that's the best thing about being an attorney, is just being able to analyze things and see things with a different set of eyes, because sometimes we get caught up in our own feelings, right?
Uh-huh.
We
Yeah.
as people can get caught up in our own feelings and our own point of view, and we're
Right.
unable to see somebody else's point of view. Well,
Right.
in law school, they force you to argue both sides.
Okay.
And so you have to be able to argue for the plaintiff side as well as the defendant side. And that I just think that schooling and that teaching helps you to see both sides and able to make arguments on both sides. And it just, kind of calms me down a little bit, because I can be a little bit out there and like I said, I thought I, had it all figured out, life all figured out when I was 16. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
because of that, it kind of toned down my my approach to things in life and people.
Gotcha. All right. So going on the opposite side of that, what are some of the things you say, okay, now these are the things that you should really watch out for that can, be detrimental to your career, or even getting into law school, or any tips on that?
I would say, make sure you keep your record clean. Those were some of the things, like being a lawyer. Like, again, I would say they look at that before you go to law school. They look at whether you've had DUIs or, what kind of, criminal record or any type of incidents you've had. Character. They look heavily at your character, even going to law school. But you can go to law school with those things and then get to the level, you graduate, and then you apply for a bar examination, and you still have to go answer before the board about those things again, right?
Gotcha.
So it's like, just make sure, and that's just for anything in life, but I would say mainly, especially if you want to be an attorney, just try to watch those things, not hanging out with the wrong crowds, getting caught up in stuff that you could be mistaken identity, because all of your records are going to be brought up. You have to submit all of that to the board when you apply for your license. So just be careful about that. And expect your family members and friends to ask you every legal question that you could possibly think of.
Okay.
Even if you don't practice in that area, because they think that a lawyer means a lawyer, and that every every area of law, and you should be able to answer their question on the spot. And so that's not bad. It's just funny that you have to tell people, like, I don't practice in that area. I could refer you to an attorney. I could try to get you an answer. And even the area you do practice in, sometimes it's not an immediate response, because practice is called practice for a reason.
Okay.
When you practice in the legal area, you are practicing. So it's every day we do work, we are doing the work of being an attorney. We're practicing the new cases we get. We're practicing, and we're doing that work. But we probably still have to pull a book out just to confirm our response to a legal question, just like I'm sure doctors have to do. Everything is going to come with this. We have the basic knowledge and information from law school. We know where to go find the information. However, when you put people's specific circumstances on top of that, you have to, consider that, and you have to look at it, and it takes time sometimes to respond. So just expect that. It's not a bad thing. Just expect when you go to law school that, everybody's going to say, "Oh, you're a lawyer." They're going to ask you every legal question they can think
of. Gotcha. Now, was your job or career affected by COVID at all? Where were you? Were you in your own business at that time, or?
Well, I was at home actually. It was
Okay.
last year. And did I say 2019? Let me see. Yeah. So October of 2019 is when I separated from the church, the full-time staff of the church, and I started my own practice.
Okay.
But it was also the same time that I became my mom's primary caregiver. So I was at home and, kind of starting my own practice, but I wasn't able to fully start the practice outside of my home because my mom, we moved my mom in with us, and I became her primary caregiver. So the following year, I was still working from home. Last year, at the beginning of the year, COVID, my children's school let out for spring break in March.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they never went back. So that was kind of my point of, I knew the world was going to be different. In March after spring break, when they didn't go back to school. And it was okay. But I will say, being in estate planning, COVID has brought about people being more aware of their mortality.
Right.
And people being more aware that, that life is frail. And that we can leave here any minute, and we need to get our things in order. And it also led to people having more time to go home and figure out what they have and go through their documents, because that's the hurdle sometimes with being an estate planner. People want to get their things in order and leave it. And I'm like, what do you have? Like, where's your, what do you understand what you own, and how much is in that account? And they really don't know, because it's not something we do every day, that we stop and think about those things. So it has caused people to have more time to look through their paperwork and figure out what they have. And number two, be more interested in estate planning, because they understand that we're all leaving here at some point. It's inevitable. And it's even more so in the COVID-19 environment. So the one thing that that has affected my practice, when I do signings, like for wills, we're required to do a signing in front of a notary. And in Mississippi, in some states, they are doing electronic notaries where you can get on a Zoom call, and that would be sufficient. But in Mississippi, they have not approved that. So although I do most of my client calls and initial meetings on Zoom and just by phone, I have to do in-person signings. So I have an office that I'm renting not far from my house, actually with Miss Attorney Gwendolyn Baptist. Shouts out to her. And she we just make sure we have COVID-19 procedures in place. We try to only do 1, maybe 2 signings a day, so that we can clean up after everybody, and bring them in and do the signing. But that's the one thing that has affected how COVID-19 has affected the practice, is that it's hard to meet with people. And some of my people are elderly that are trying to get their things done. And so you want to be super careful with them. And so, it has been affected.
Good deal. And you also said you wanted to mention something about simplyhire.com. Like, that was one of the things that actually helped you early in your career. So you want to go ahead and discuss that before I ask you?
Yes. I was telling Dr. Mr. earlier.
Go ahead.
I was telling her earlier that when I was working in Grenada, we were living here in South Haven, driving to Grenada. For those of you who don't know, it's about an hour and a half away to work. I got a call from a company, from Airline Pilots Association, which is the company I spent 10 years working for and loved it. I got a call from them that they had found my resume on simplyhired.com and had actually sent me an interview to the email address that I was using at the time, which is a yahoo.com address. And that was my address I'd used in school. And I started getting a lot of spam in that email. So I switched emails to Gmail from Yahoo, not knowing and realizing that I'm not forwarding my emails, or that somebody on Simply Hired could be trying to reach out to me. So I say all that to say, simplyhired.com was the way I received, one of my most promising and rewarding career jobs I've had for my legal career. So it is legit. Put your resume on there if you're looking for a job, and just keep your email address updated. That's what I'll ask, because, you could be seen months later after you post your resume, and a company could be trying to reach out to you, and unknowingly you have a new email address and you're not checking the old one. So but yes, simplyhired.com was a blessing for me.
Was that the only place you placed your resume?
I'm sorry.
Am I breaking up?
No, someone tried to call, so I just
That's fine.
No, I did everything. Fresh out of law school, I was on Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, simplyhired.com, and just everything. Career Builder was big at that time. I did everything in my power to get a job, because I hadn't passed the bar, and it took me just, for those of you, it took me 3 times to pass the bar. So I had a lot of things going on. My oldest child was having some medical issues, and we were constantly back and forth in the hospital with her. And so I would, every time it was like, and they only offer the bar exam twice a year. So every time I was scheduled to take it, it'd be like the week before she'd go in the hospital or something, or we'd be in the hospital for a month before the bar. So I didn't give up, thankfully. My natural mind is like, I should just give up, but I didn't give up. I kept going back, even though I didn't pass it, but it took me the 3rd time to pass it. So I was looking for law clerk positions, paralegal positions, and it was difficult because a lot of people, it's almost like this overqualified. I know a lot of you hear the overqualified, get the overqualified response all the time. I was a paralegal that could do paralegal work, but I had also gone to law school. So I got asked all the time, once you pass the bar, are you leaving? Are you going to, go practice law? And I was like, look, I need a job. I have 2 children at that point. I had my 2nd child in law school, which, that's another guy story. That me and my husband had our 2nd child, my 2nd year of law school. And I was like, woo, yes. But anyway, I just needed a job, and I was, a lot of people were turned off at the fact that they wouldn't have a long-term paralegal. Because they felt like the minute I passed the bar that I would leave and practice law. And but God worked it out, because like I said, the Airline Pilots Association, when I got the call for the interview, it was the very next day. They were about to cancel it, and they just wanted to check with me before they cancel it. And I said, please do not cancel the interview. I will be there. And I showed up. I had to, research labor law with a friend who took labor law. I didn't take labor law in law school. I had to research labor law with her that night. I went to the interview, and, I guess I did good, because I got the 2nd interview. And when they offered me the job, they said, we don't promote within. So, this is a paralegal position. Even if you pass the bar, you're probably not going to be an attorney with us, because we don't promote within. Is that okay with you? And I was like, yes, that's very fine. Because titles do not matter. That's something else I wanted, to let people know. Your title does not matter. What matters is, are you doing something that you're proud of? And, are you making enough money to feed your family? So that's what mattered. And so I was like, no, it doesn't matter. But
That's
a
right.
year later, when I passed the bar, the first thing they did was promote me to an attorney position. So it goes to show you, I think that they cared more about what, where my mindset was. Am I
Okay.
one of those people that's like, I'm an attorney, I'm qualified as an attorney, I only want to work as an attorney?
Yeah.
Because I'm not that person, right? Like, I'm just
Okay.
not that person. I want to do, when I went and worked for the church, I wasn't the attorney for the church. I was a stewardship director. So I
Gotcha.
ran a program that really had nothing to do with legal work, even though being an attorney at a church, you're going to do some legal work and, in the backdrop, but that wasn't my title. It wasn't my job. And I was okay with that. Right. And even now,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
the different careers that I do. I drive, for our
Yeah.
truck. I don't know if we're at that point, but for our trucking business, I drive a 26-foot box truck to different locations, to different Amazon distribution centers, with my waterproof boots on and, my reflector vest and, things that keep me warm.
Yes.
And nobody is the wiser that, I'm an attorney driving this
Right.
big old truck, but,
Right.
I'm enjoying doing it, and it's, providing a legacy for my family. So, hey,
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Right. And I agree with you. And that's why too, I want to get the message out there too, that, I'm not just looking for college educated individuals to speak with. If you love what you do, you feel like it's helped you and your family, like reach out to me. Let me know, info@soaringreadpt.com. I want to just get your story out there and just let people know, because I reached out to the people that I knew of, like you and everybody else on, like I knew, except for Judge Carlos. He's the only one I didn't know. But I just love to hear people's stories, and like, how did you get to where you are? What were the steps, and how everyone, you don't have to go to college to be successful. Like, that's a fact. It's a fact. And a lot of people leave college, they have more debt than anything. So they're really paying student loans. And It's unfortunate. And that's why I always tell, I told my nephew, and I'm gonna tell my kids, watch what you major in, because you're gonna have a bill if you have to get student loans. And, so I am looking for those individuals who did not go to college and are doing well. Like, there's money to be made, right? Like, yes. And you don't have to go to college.
Yes, you do not have to go to college. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Tanya, because it's so important. And if you guys were listening earlier when I talked about my journey, all the changes that I made, every time I changed my major and went to a different school, that just added more cost onto my student loans. So now my student loan debt is another house, right? So we're paying, another mortgage literally back for my education, and not just for my education. If I would have gone straight through, it's also for those years that I was unsure, that I just kind of wanted to, change my major and change schools. Because I was in a place that I was trying to figure it out. So I would definitely encourage the young people, if you're unsure about what you want to do, don't just go to college, especially a 4-year university, just because your parents or somebody has an expectation of you to go to school. There's so many other things you can do. And I'm a big advocate for community colleges or any technical college that you can get your certification or license in something. HVAC, and when we start talking about COVID-19, it was my corporate friends, the human resource executives that got laid off, right? But everybody, no matter who you were, everybody, especially during the snow and ice time, everybody's making sure their heat stays on, so the HVAC techs are not out of work.
Exactly.
The plumbers are not out of work, because guess what? All this tissue that got bought out, these families, that tissue got to go down somewhere.
Right.
Plumbers stayed employed.
Right. That's true.
Your electricians, they're working.
Even now, with all this ice and lights out. Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then think about carpenters, because people weren't able to go on vacation. The thing that people use their vacation funds for was to renovate their homes, to, add pools and everything like that. The groundwork, the dirt work that's required, all that stuff is trades that somebody went to a technical school to get,
Right.
Or they just started working, straight out of high school with a contractor or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And those things are so valuable because even when you can't find an employer that will hire you,
Uh-huh.
you can
Got the
go into
skills.
business for yourself.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's so important that we keep in mind what's the goal, what's the goal of education. And I know our parents meant very well when they told us to go to college and get an education because they thought that was the way you make more money, be able to do more things than they did. And they had, high hopes for us. And you always want better for your children than what you had.
Right. Right.
However, now that we know better, we're going to do better. And it was a great experience. I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, I think that we've taken so much experience from children these days, in education. The focus is so much on education. They don't get a chance to work part-time jobs because they're so busy doing this. I worked at McDonald's and Sonic Drive-In from the time I turned 16. And I had some kind of work ethic. I knew what working meant,
Yeah.
And so that's so important to life because we just need to start doing that. And that's what we do in the college with the college tour at Brown Missionary Baptist Church through our life prep ministry. It's run by an awesome person. I got to put you in touch with her. Monica Johnson does an excellent job running our college tour. But we introduce students to different experiences, different colleges outside of Mississippi, but also help them to talk to the people in power about what kind of scholarships are being given out.
Yes.
How much do you offer full rides? What is a full ride? Is a full ride just all your tuition being paid? And now your parents still have to pay for your dormitory?
Yeah.
Is a full ride including your out-of-state tuition? Different things like that. So I would definitely encourage anyone who is undecided or about to graduate high school and still undecided to, number one, go out and seek shadowing opportunities, maybe internship opportunities. It doesn't have to be a paid opportunity because while you're still in high school and maybe living with a parent, please take advantage of this.
Yes, right. That's so true.
We all wanted to grow up really fast. I wanted to be grown when I was like 13 years old. And I believed my mama when I turned 18 and I was out of the house and I had bills. And I was like, wow, this is what grown is. It's eye-opening. So try to get in as much experience you can before you graduate high school to kind of give you direction. But if you have to change directions, if you're in college now, let's say if you're in college now, and this is not the thing for you and you have to make a change yourself. The sooner, the better. And you'll be better for it. And I'll say this too, if you're in your last year of getting your degree and you realize, I don't want this degree, this is not what I want to do. I have seen more times than not, opportunities where you can use your bachelor's degree as a leg up, right? So just get the bachelor's degree in whatever field, and people look at it, even if you're going into another field, it's just I guess a character addition to you that says you want to work hard, you got this. We understand, you have this type of knowledge in this area, but we'll apply it to this area. So
well, that's what happened to me because I ended up changing my major my senior year. I don't regret it though. Like I do not regret it. I don't. In those extra 2 years, I had to pay for it. But at the same time, I felt like that was the better path for me to get into PT school. Because for me, it was organic chemistry. I didn't want to take organic chemistry. So I found an easier route. And somebody told me my senior year and I was like, well, thanks. And I did it. So, but it was, like you said, God's plan. Because if I would have graduated on time, I would have had my master's in PT and had to go back to school to get my DPT. Wow. And the 2 years gave me a chance to be a graduate of the first DPT class in the state of Mississippi. So I didn't have to go back to school. It was like, all right, I'm good. So again, it's the timing of things. And we might want to question it if I did and be like, well, why? But sometimes you just have to just embrace the journey, and just say, thank you the whole way. Just thank you,
And I think college also teaches you life is short.
Yeah. Oh my
When
gosh,
when you
yes.
first graduate high school, 4 years of college sounds like a long time. And if you add professional school onto that, I think Tanya, you did 4 years, like I did 3
It was
years.
three.
Okay, 3. So 3 + 4, this is only if you're going straight through. That's
Right.
7 years.
Right.
At 18 years old, if you would have told me I wasn't going to be finished with school until I was 25, I would have laughed at you, because I didn't like school. Like, I didn't like high school. I didn't really, I just did college because I felt like it was the only way I could, make some money. But yeah, so I would have thought that would have taken forever. Just like my kids now, they're like, oh my, a year is gonna be forever.
Yes.
But time goes by so quickly. You'll
does.
start college and you'll think you have time to play. Like I did. I thought I had time to do everything. I lived my best life. And then all of a sudden it was like my fourth senior year. My senior year,
you're like,
what do I have? How many classes and credits do I have? It's like, okay, I withdrew from that semester. Oh, I withdrew from that semester. I went to LSU that semester, and then those hours, only half of those hours transferred. Oh yeah, it gets real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
So I tell people, and I think somebody posted this, one of my friends posted this on Facebook or something, and they were talking about people who are older and they're thinking about going back to school and they're considering it. So it's like somebody said, I'm 36, so when I graduate, like let's say Mississippi State, I'll be 40, right?
Okay.
And that's, most people are like, that doesn't make sense. But then she said, but if you don't go to school now, when you turn 40, you'll be in the same place.
Right.
So it's like, you're going to turn 40. 4 years are going to go by. You're not going to stop time by not doing the thing that you think you want to do. So if you don't do that, what else are you going to do? Because time is going to pass by regardless.
Yeah.
So the question you need to ask yourself is, instead of the time, 4 years or 7 years, you need to say, what do I want to be in the same place? Will I be okay with being where I am today in 4 years or in 7 years or in 10 years? Because if you do the thing for 4 years or for 7 years, this is if you decide to go to college now. You're not pushing college, but if you decide to go to college, will it be worth it for you to get you to where you're going? Gotcha. If you want to be the Dr. Mister, I'm sure she's educated you about what you want to, how you get there. If you want to be a lawyer, then yes, you have to go to law school, and the bachelor's degree is the first step in going to law school. Right. But if you want to just own your own business and you want to make some money to take care of yourself, how about getting, going to Delta Technical College and doing the 18-month program? How about, going to nursing school? And I think some nursing schools require that maybe a first year at community college, and then you get in nursing school and you can get your registered nursing license. I'm not a nurse, so please, the disclaimer is out there. I'm not a nurse. I don't know. I only did 1 semester of nursing school, so look, that's it. I did 1 semester of nursing school. I worked at a hospital.
I know some nurses. I'll see, can I get some nurses on here? Because I'm looking for all industries. So some people, there's some people on my list, they don't even know it yet, but I'm coming for them. They don't think it's over, y'all. It ain't over. If I haven't called you yet, I'm on it.
but I'll just say that, like we didn't think we'd be here. Like me and Tanya, graduated high school in 1999, and here we are, we grown, we finally grew up, and it happened really fast. I feel like it happened really fast, and there are some things I still think about. I'm like, I'll be 40 this year. I thought I'd be in a different place when I turned 40. Some things I felt like I would have accomplished or done, but no fret. I'm aware of it, and I'm like, hey, so am I going to be in the same place when I turn 45, or am I going to create me a 5-year plan to get there? Yeah. And I don't want to just steal your whole time.
No, you're fine. But this is your spotlight. I brought you on to tell your story and about your career. So, but yeah, that was it. Unless you got anything else you wanted to say, I mean, you did good. Thank you for all the information and for sharing your time and your knowledge. So,
oh, no problem. I'll say the most important thing that got us to, and I'll say both me and my husband. And you heard me mentioning about my child. We had an unexpected pregnancy in college during the time of living our best life. And so it was before we both graduated from college. We didn't even, weren't even in our last semester. But we found out we were pregnant. We were having, a baby. And the one thing we could agree on is that we wanted the best life for her. We found out we were having a girl. We knew her name was going to be Madison. So what we did before we even knew anything about, a vision board or anything, we created a plan called For Madison 5. So it was FOR Madison 5. We made that our username for everything. It was my username to log into my college account. It was my username for our bank account. It was our username for everything. It was always front and center because we had things on that list that we wanted to accomplish before Madison turned 5. The two top things were we wanted to both be college graduates. We had spent so much. We had already spent 4 years in college. We were like, we got to get our degrees for her life to be better. So we need to go ahead and get this thing done. So that was, he get a bachelor's degree. I finished my bachelor's degree. Those were on the list. The next thing was moving to a town where she could start, public school. We wanted to be in a nice area where there was a nice public school option. And that was one of the things on the list. We wanted to buy a house. And I'll just be very transparent. This plan was created when we were living in, a really small apartment in Starkville, Mississippi. He was working at Sonic Drive-In. We were making $10,000 a year. And we had no idea how we were going to finish college because I had just skipped around at several different schools. But it was the starting point. It was the foundation from which we made all of the rest of our decisions. So I say all that to say you don't have to have as much knowledge as Dr. Mister or as I have now, in hindsight, because we can say a lot of stuff in hindsight. But when I provide advice about what I did in the moment that really got me to where I am today, that was the biggest thing. Is I had a goal on paper. We wrote it down. We wrote it down on notebook paper, and we stuck with it. And anything that we could put it on a wall, on a mirror, we remembered. And it didn't go. Did things go as smoothly as we wanted them to? Oh no, there were roadblocks. There were stumbling blocks. There were mountains that came. But we were able to get back on track quickly because we knew what the end goal was. Before she turned 5, we wanted to have all these things checked off. And so I say all that to say, because by the grace of God and that list, we were able to accomplish all the things on the list and more, because God said he'll do exceedingly and abundantly above everything that you can ask or think. Law school was not on the list. Graduating law school was not on the list. But not only did I have a bachelor's degree before she turned 5, but I also had my law degree before she turned 5. We had bought a house in an area where we thought we never lived. And we tried to force it. We were like Sarah and Hagar. We tried to force buying a smaller house, like 2 years earlier when I had my second child, because the second child was not on the list. This is
Stop.
Having the second child in 5 years was not on the list.
All right.
But she came.
Right.
So, we tried to buy a house beforehand in Corinth, Mississippi, and Lord said not so. And I was devastated. Devastated because I felt like that was my opportunity to have a home for Madison. But, the Lord gave us a bigger and better home in a better area. May of 2008, I graduated from law school. We purchased our first home. We closed on our first home in South Haven, Mississippi. And Madison was 4. And let me see, November of 2008, I started the Airline Pilots Association, which was, a life changer for us. And then that following January of 2009, she turned 5.
Wow.
So, and we had checked everything off the list. So if I could say anything for people like in the moment, because I know, the 18-year-old is not going to have the mindset of Dr. Mister or me. Because some of our stuff just comes from experience. If nothing else, whatever you desire to do, wherever you want to be in 5 years, write it down.
Yes.
Have a plan to get there, and accomplish those big steps, those
Right.
things that are like, we have to have this completed, right? Like I
Right.
have to have this
Right.
completed to get there. Do
Gotcha.
that, at least do that. And then you'll, pray about it. Let God do the rest. He'll take care of you. But
That's so
thank you
true.
so much. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. And you got a couple of comments. So Miss Stephanie said, amen. I don't know at what point, I wasn't keeping track. My apologies. And she said, God is good. So yes, you are reaching the people. And what you said
Oh,
is
that's
resonating
great.
with everyone. Right. So thank you, Stephanie, for those comments. If anyone have any questions, please put those in right now because we are about to come to an end. She also said, love this chat. Stephanie did. So yeah, you did good.
Stephanie.
You did good.
Thank you. Hopefully, I'll be starting some stuff on my page, Tanya. So I'll have you on, Dr. Mister, and any of your other guests, because I just want to help educate people just like you, because that's what we're here to do, right? We're here, we're blessed to be a blessing to others. And we have to continue to spread the word and paying it forward. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, you guys, thanks again. And we will be back on Thursday at same time, 6:30. We have a chiropractor coming on, and she's going to educate us on that. I have actually had quite a few people reach out to me on chiropractor, being a chiropractor. I'm like, that's different. So I'm physical therapy, not chiropractor, but very similar, but some differences. So you guys tune in again on Thursday where we have a chiropractor, very well-known lady around here in Shreveport. And thanks again, Tasha. Best of luck to you and your family. And y'all take care, girl.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.